You got everything you wanted. The promotion, the house, the relationship, the money, the status. And yet here you are, lying awake at 3 in the morning, asking yourself if this is really it, if this is all there is. That emptiness you feel, it has a name, existential dread. And it's the most dangerous kind of suffering because on paper, your life looks perfect. Today, we're going inside the psychology of why achievement never feels like enough, why success leaves you hollow, and why the thing you've been chasing your entire life will never ever fill the void you're trying to escape. Because here's what nobody tells you. The emptiness isn't a sign that you haven't achieved enough. It's a sign that you've been looking in the wrong place all along. Let's start with something you probably recognize. You work hard for years toward a goal. Maybe it's a career milestone, a financial target, a body you want, a person you want to be with. You tell yourself that when you get there, everything will be different. You'll finally be happy. You'll finally feel like you made it. You'll finally be able to rest. And then you get there. And for maybe a week, maybe a day, maybe just a few hours, you feel something, a rush, a sense of accomplishment. Yes, I did it. But then something strange happens. The feeling fades. The achievement becomes normal. And that voice in your head starts whispering again. What's next? Is this really it? Why do I feel different? This is called the hedonic treadmill. And it's one of the cruelest tricks your brain plays on you. The hedonic treadmill is a psychological phenomenon where you quickly return to a stable level of happiness despite major, positive or negative events. Research shows that even your biggest successes quickly become your new normal, and you end up chasing the next milestone just to feel the same. Psychologists Brickman and Campbell introduced this concept back in 1971, and their research found something deeply uncomfortable. Even life-changing events like winning the lottery don't lead to sustained happiness. People adapt. The initial thrill fades, and they're back to their baseline level of happiness, sometimes within months. Think about that. You could achieve everything you ever wanted, and your brain would just recalibrate. Your nervous system would adapt, and you'd be right back where you started emotionally, except now you're standing on top of a mountain you climbed, wondering why the view doesn't feel as good as you thought it would. This happens because of 3 psychological processes. First, there's rising aspirations. The moment you achieve something, your brain immediately raises the bar. You wanted a certain salary, you got it, now you want more. You wanted that relationship, you got it, now you notice what's missing. Your expectations inflate to match your reality, which means you never actually feel ahead. Second, there's social comparison. We don't measure our happiness in a vacuum. We measure it relative to others. You get a promotion, but then you hear someone else got a bigger one. You buy a house, but your friend bought a better one. Your achievement feels smaller because you're comparing yourself to others instead of valuing your own progress. And the comparison never ends because there's always someone with more. Third, there's adaptation. Your brain is designed to return to baseline. It's a survival mechanism. If you stayed euphoric every time something good happened, you'd lose your edge. You'd stop striving. So your nervous system adapts. The new car becomes just a car. The dream job becomes just a job. The relationship becomes routine. And you're left running faster on the treadmill, trying to recapture a feeling that your own biology is designed to take away from you. But here's where it gets deeper. Because the hedonic treadmill explains why success doesn't last. But it doesn't explain why the emptiness feels so profound. Why it's not just disappointment, but a kind of existential terror. A feeling that something fundamental is wrong. That's where Viktor Frankl comes in. Frankl was a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor who spent years in Nazi concentration camps. And in those camps, he observed something that changed psychology forever. He watched people who had every reason to give up, and some of them survived, and he asked himself why. What was the difference between those who made it and those who didn't? And what he found was this: it wasn't physical strength. It wasn't luck. It was meaning. The prisoners who survived were the ones who had a reason to live, a purpose that went beyond themselves, something they were living for that made the suffering bearable. Frankl developed a theory called logotherapy based on this insight. And At the center of logotherapy is a concept he called the existential vacuum. The existential vacuum is a sense of inner emptiness where life feels meaningless even when outward circumstances seem fine. It's marked by apathy, boredom, and what Frankl called Sunday neurosis. The despair that emerges when work's distractions fade and you're left face to face with the question of life's purpose. This is what you're actually feeling when success feels empty. You're not just adapting to your achievements. You're confronting the existential vacuum, the realization that all the external things you've been chasing can't fill the internal void. That success, status, money, recognition, they're all just distractions from a deeper question you've been avoiding. What is the point of any of this? Frankl argued that the primary motivational force in human beings isn't pleasure, as Freud believed, and it isn't power, as Adler thought, it's meaning. We are meaning-seeking creatures. And when we can't find meaning, when our lives feel purposeless, we experience a kind of suffering that no amount of external success can fix. Think about how many successful people you know who are miserable. Celebrities who have everything and still struggle with depression. Entrepreneurs who build empires and feel empty. People who achieve their wildest dreams and then ask, now what? They're not broken, they're not ungrateful. They're experiencing the existential vacuum, the realization that they've been climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. And here's the thing that makes this so hard to face. Society tells you that success equals happiness. That if you just work hard enough, achieve enough, accumulate enough, you'll feel fulfilled. It's the promise we're sold from childhood. Get good grades, get into a good school, get a good job, make good money, buy the right things, and you'll be happy. But that's a lie. Not because success is bad, but because success is the wrong target. You've been aiming at the scoreboard instead of playing the game. You've been chasing outcomes instead of living with purpose. And now you're standing at the finish line, realizing there is no finish line. Just another starting point for the next race you don't actually want to run. So why does this happen? Why do we fall into this trap? Because we're conditioned to look outside ourselves for validation. From the time you're a child, you learn that your worth is measured by external metrics. Your grades, your achievements, what other people think of you. You learn to perform for approval, to chase milestones that prove you're valuable, to accumulate evidence that you matter. And somewhere along the way, you lost touch with the internal compass, the part of you that knows what actually matters. What brings genuine fulfillment? What makes life feel meaningful? You traded your inner knowing for external validation. And now you're re-trapped in a system where the rewards keep getting bigger, but the emptiness keeps getting deeper. This is the meaning crisis. And it's not just personal, it's cultural. We live in a time of unprecedented material wealth and technological advancement. And yet rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide are climbing. People have more than ever and feel emptier than ever. Because we built a society that optimizes for achievement but not for meaning. That teaches us how to succeed but not how to live. The existential dread you feel isn't a personal failure. It's a predictable response to modern conditions. You're not broken for feeling empty after achieving your goals. You're human. You're experiencing what happens when you try to fill a spiritual void with material solutions. And here's what makes existential dread so terrifying. It's not tied to specific events or situations. It's a general feeling of unease about the entire human existence. You can be sitting in a beautiful room with everything you need and suddenly be overwhelmed by the awareness of your own mortality, the meaninglessness of it all, the insignificance of your life in the vast universe. It's the moment when you step back from the day-to-day grind and see your life from above, and you realize you're going to die. Everyone you love is going to die. Everything you build will eventually crumble. And none of it, none of the achievements, the possessions, the status will matter in the end. That's existential dread. And once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. You can distract yourself. You can chase the next goal. You can numb it with work or substances or relationships. But it's always there in the background. That quiet terror that your life might not mean anything at all. So what do? How do you escape this? The answer is both simple and incredibly difficult. You don't escape it, you face it. Because existential dread isn't the problem. It's the messenger. It's your psyche telling you that something needs to change, that you can't keep running on the treadmill, that you need to stop looking outside and start looking inside. Frankl said that meaning can't be pursued directly. You can't chase it like you chase success. Instead, meaning finds you when you dedicate yourself to something greater than yourself. When you stop asking what you want from life and start asking what life wants from you. This is the shift that changes everything. Instead of trying to fill your life with achievements, you start trying to empty yourself in service of something meaningful. Instead of collecting experiences to prove your worth, you start contributing value because it aligns with who you are. Instead of seeking happiness as a goal, you let happiness emerge as a byproduct of living with purpose. There are 3 ways Frankl said you can find meaning. The first is through creating a work or doing a deed. Not achievement for achievement's sake, but creating something that matters to you. Something that expresses who you are, something that serves others. It's the difference between working for a paycheck and working for a purpose. The second is through experiencing something or encountering someone. Through love, through beauty, through connection. When you stop trying to get something from people and start trying to give something to them. When you stop consuming experiences and start being present in them. When you let yourself be moved by art, by nature, by the simple fact of being alive. The third, and this is the one that makes existential dread bearable, is through the attitude you take toward unavoidable suffering. Frankl found meaning in the concentration camps by choosing how he would respond to his circumstances. He couldn't control what happened to him, but he could control who he would be in the face of it. And that freedom, that tiny space between stimulus and response, that's where meaning lives. This is the truth that success can't give you. You already have everything you need to live a meaningful life. Not because you've achieved enough or accumulated enough, but because meaning isn't about what you have. It's about how you live, what you stand for, what you give your life to. The existential dread you feel is actually an invitation. It's your deepest self trying to wake you up from the trance of achievement. Trying to tell you that you're more than your resume. That your life is about more than checking boxes and climbing ladders. That there's a dimension of human existence that can't be measured or compared or earned. And when you finally stop running, when you finally sit with the emptiness and let it speak to you, you might discover something strange. The void isn't empty, it's full of possibility. Full of questions worth asking. Full of a life worth living that has nothing to do with success and everything to do with meaning. You can keep chasing, keep achieving. Keep trying to fill the hole with more accomplishments, or you can stop. You can ask yourself what you're actually living for. What matters so much that it makes the struggle worthwhile. What you would dedicate your life to even if no one ever knew. Even if you never got rewarded. Even if it never made you successful in the eyes of the world. That's where meaning lives. Not at the top of the mountain, but in the decision to climb for a reason that matters to you. Not in the achievement, but in the dedication. Not in the outcome, but in the commitment to something beyond yourself. Existential dread doesn't go away, but it changes. It stops being terror and becomes a reminder. A call to live more deeply, to love more fully, to contribute more meaningfully, to stop performing and start being. Success will always feel empty if you're using it to fill an existential void. But meaning, real meaning, the kind you find when you stop chasing and start living, that doesn't fade. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't disappear when the novelty wears off. Because meaning isn't something you achieve, it's something you become. And maybe that's why you're feeling empty. Not because you haven't done enough, but because you've been trying to do your way into being when you need to be your way into doing. The question isn't what else do I need to achieve? The question is who am I becoming? And does it matter? Watch the next video.